Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live stream poetry podcast on the planet, in your ear, not on your laptops. For episode number 294, our guests are Hanaa Ahmad Jabr, Jennifer Jean, and translator Wadaq Qais, talking about their wonderful new collection, Where Do You Live? They're going to be joining us in just a few minutes, but before we get into it, should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all this because we love poetry, and know you do too, so please do click on the mic button and share. Make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications. Whatever you can do to help spread poetry around the internet would be much appreciated. And now we're going to start out like we always do with our Poets Respond poet. And today, Stephen Gibson is back. Stephen was the guest on a Rattlecast just a couple months ago talking about his book, Frida Kahlo in Fort Lauderdale. But he's back with a Memorial Day poem. Here he is, Stephen. Hey, Stephen, how you doing? Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming back. And you know, we have these holidays that come up, and we get some poems every year for various holidays every time it's that week. And this is the second time we've had a Memorial Day poem for you be part of the series. We had one in 2020 as well, and it's something that touches you very personally. Every Memorial Day, and one of the emails that we got in response to your poem is that I don't understand how the link to the news story, which was that you included. It was a story. What was the headline? Let me look it up really quick. It was, we found on sale favorites for Memorial Day. Here's what to shop this weekend. And so that was the thing that sort of triggered you thinking about this poem. But of course, it fits with current events all the time. But what can you tell us about how this poem came to be and why you come back to this topic every Memorial Day, which is sort of obvious, but let's hear it.
It's something I had forgotten, in talking with my mom, years later. And she had mentioned his black slippers. And so in seeing the article, I sat down and I wanted to see where that memory took me. And so that's really the poem. I just sat down and it almost wrote itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you often write about, as we talked about, ekphrastic poems as a kind of thing. With that Frida Kahlo book that came out with this year, and other work too. Often, ekphrastic is the source of your writing. You look at photographs and then write from there. And this is no different. So, can you describe the photo that you're talking about in a little more detail too?
It's a photo I have in the hallway, and every time I go into my office to work. I pass by that, and I have another photo of my grandfather and my grandmother when they had emigrated from County Limerick, and I look at it all the time, and it's something I guess in a way I say hello to, and in a way it's a way of making a connection, So as I go into work, I see the photo, and then I go to work, And so Memorial Day has me come and think about their lives again,
Yeah. Well, let's hear the poem. Want to go ahead and read it?
Thank you. On my parents' wedding photo this Memorial Day. When I look at the both of you in your wedding photo, him in his uniform, you in wedding gown with flowers, I find myself asking what you thought about your futures, which, of course, I know and you couldn't possibly know. An ordinary black and white photo taken in some studio, though it's crazy of me to think anything ordinary in war. Him, about to be deployed, who will come back and father me. You, who, when he's again in some VA hospital, will go see him and will bring him brand new black slippers. Though he won't be getting up, you bring him new slippers, which you keep in a hall closet next to a suitcase with letters, his V-mail, and other papers, regarding his convulsive electroshock treatments, and a death certificate citing pneumonia, and a plot number, which has in marble, tank destroyer.
Yeah, and so a really heartbreaking poem for Memorial Day as we remember all the people that have died in the various wars that seem to never end, and all the ways that completely changes lives, which is something we'll be talking about later as well with the main guests. Stephen Gibson, thanks so much for being a guest again and sharing that heartfelt poem with us.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me share this moment with Hanaa and Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care, Stephen.
Yeah,
once again, that was Stephen Gibson with today's poem of the day on Rattle.com. That was on my parents' wedding photo this Memorial Day. If you'd like to submit your poems about current events, all you have to do is go to Rattle.com, find up on content, that Poets Respond link. Go there to submit your poems by Friday night at midnight. We publish something every Sunday morning about current events, anything that's happened within the last week or is coming up, something that you're thinking about. That has some kind of news article or story in the moment attached to it, because we want to be living, we want poetry to be engaging with the world in the moment that we're in right now, and that's what we do with Poets Respond. So make sure you write and share your poems for that. Now we're going to take a quick break and go to our main guests, so sit tight and we'll be right back with more poetry. And we're back. Thanks so much for your patience. We have a special broadcast. It's an earlier time today, so thanks everybody who could join us early. It's because we have three guests, two of whom are in Iraq. Hanaa Ahmad Jabr is here, Wadaq Qais, the translator of these two wonderful poets, and Jennifer Jean, who's been on Rattlecast before. So Hanaa Ahmad Jabr was born in Mosul, Iraq. She's a prize-winning poet and short story writer who has participated in critical conferences and international poetry festivals. She has a PhD in philosophy and Arabic literature. Her books include the poetry collections I Draw My Sorrow from His Collar, and two books of criticism, The Dialectic of Poetry in Prose and Modernist Poetry, and The Poetics of the Prose Poem. Additionally, she has released a children's book, Sultan and Shanidar. Hanaa teaches at the University of Mosul. Then we have Jennifer Jean, who first appeared in episode number 76 of the Rattlecast. She was also interviewed and featured in our Adjunct Poets issue of the magazine. Her poetry collections include Vos, Object Lesson, and The Fool. She's the editor of the forthcoming anthology Other Paths for Scheherazade, a bilingual anthology of poetry by Arab women from Tupelo Press coming up next year. Jennifer is an organizer for the Her Story Is Collective, which we'll be talking about. She's also a faculty member at Solstice MFA and a senior program manager at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Massachusetts. And then our third guest is Wadaq Qais. She was born in Basra, Iraq. She received a degree in accounting in 2021 and later found her true calling in the translation department at the University of Basra, where she is completing her studies now. So we have a wonderful show on hand. And Jennifer, we'll talk to you first. How you doing today? Great to see you.
Great to see you again, Tim.
Yeah, and so tell us first of all how this book came to be, and I think it guess goes back to the Her Story Is collective, which brought together poets from the U.S. or artists from the U.S. And Iraq. Tell us how you came to be involved with that and what that was.
Well, the Her Story Is collective is, as you said, a collective of women from Iraq and America. We're an artist collective, and we work together on reconciliation projects, things that bring our two countries together. We've had, war conflict in the past, as everyone knows. So this is a way that we can come together as people, as women, and especially as artists. And in 2017 is the time that the group began. I became involved with it pretty early on. And you mentioned, is it a workshop? Well, we did have a very momentous workshop in Dubai in 2017. And I attended that, and it was wonderful. And Hanaa was meant to go, and she was unable to go. But I knew she was a poet. She knew I was a poet. We really wanted to meet. And after that workshop, we still haven't met, but what we did was we decided to work together on a project where we could exchange poems, and we decided that we would address our poems to each other, and we agreed on a theme, Where Do You Live, which is the title of the book. And I've said this before elsewhere, but it just this is the best way to explain that theme is that we were exploring where we live physically. And I actually live in Salem, Massachusetts. She lives in Mosul, Iraq. And so we did talk about where we live physically, but it's more than that. It's about where we live in our spirits and our memories, especially memories connecting ourselves to war, of which Hanaa has deep experiences. And I was affected by the fact that my father is a Vietnam War veteran that was, 100% disabled mentally from that war. And I did not grow up with him, and had effects from that situation. But where we live, back to that, where we live also in, where we want to live, the ideal places where we live as women, where we live in our friendship with each other also. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for having us. We love talking about this project and reading together, especially.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's such a powerful and important project too. And what we're going to do, it's a little bit different. We're going to have the reading. Usually we go back and forth talking and reading poems, but this time we're going to have the reading all at once. So Jennifer and Hanaa are going to go back and forth reading with the translations too. And then we'll have a Q&A kind of afterwards. So it's sort of broken up into segments a little bit more than it usually is. So if anybody has any questions for any of the guests today, leave them in the chat windows, either on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll pass them along after the reading. But we're going to read a few poems first, and that's how we're going to break it up. So why don't you go ahead, Jennifer, and start with the first poem you wanted to share.
Well, actually, we're going to start with Hanaa reading in Arabic, and then Wadaq will read the poem in English, and then I'll follow up, and we will go back and forth, but we want to start with Hanaa.
Okay, great, yeah.
Okay, I will begin. مساء الخير عليكم جميعا. سأبدأ بقراءة قصيدة. طبعا شكرا لكم على هذا الحوار الممتع. يعني أنا إنجليزيتي بسيطة، بس فهمت بعض الشغلات، فشكرا لجينيفر على هذا التعريف. سأبدأ بقراءة قصيدة أين تعيشين، لكونها القصيدة اللي تحمل عنوان الكتاب أيضا. ودق، تقدرين تعلميهم بهذه المقدمة لحتى أبلش أقرأ بعد إذنك يعني.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Hanaa was telling us thank you very much for today's interview and the meeting. And thank you, Jennifer, for introducing us. She will now start reading the first poem. She'll continue.
Yeah. أين تعيشين؟ لا أذكر اسم أول حرب ولدتني، ربما لم يدونها أحد، ربما يعرف ذلك نهر دجلة، وحده من يعرف الاتجاهات، وحده من يحفظ الخرافات والحقائق التي رافقت جريانه منذ القدم. أعيش هناك في الشمال، حيث كل ذكرى قابلة للوجع. أنتمي إلى النهر. ها أنا عند إحدى ضفتيه أقف بعين مفتوحة، وأراقب حطام المدينة القديمة وهو يندثر، وأهمس: يا رب الأزقة القديمة، احفظنا من الحرب القادمة. ها أنا أراقب باب شمس وهو يعود للحياة، سور نينوى، تمثال أبي تمام وهو يلوح للقادمين، الجسور وهي تربط رئتي المدينة، الغيمات وهي مستعدة للمطر بوضوح دون دخان يحجبها، تدفق النهر دون جثث حرب توقفه، وكثيرا من الأرصفة وأشياء أخرى لا تتسع نشرات الأخبار لذكرها، ولا برامج التنمية، ولا حتى تقارير الBBC والCNN بكل قنواتها. نعم، أعيش هناك بينما تحاول عيني الثانية وهي مغمضة أن تخبئ أكثر من مشهد عن بشاعة الحرب. لا شيء يساعدني على وصف ذلك، لا حكايات الجدات، ولا أحلام الأطفال، لا مهرجانات الشعر، ولا كتب النقد، ولا أفلام الرعب، لا تقارير الأمم المتحدة، ولا أي كتاب يؤرخ لذلك، لا جملة بأية لغة كانت تقوى على حمل تلك البشاعة. ها أنا أشعر بتورم في عيني من ذلك كله، أرشيف علي حمله للأجيال القادمة. ها هو وجهي ينتفخ، كذلك ذراعاي، جسدي. ياه، ها أنا أتكور، أعاود الانتفاخ من جديد وأرتفع. أظنني سقطت نحو الأعلى كالعادة. الآن ربما تتساءلين يا جينيفر: من أنت؟ ما مدينتك الأم؟ وسأجيب فورا وإحدى عيني لا تزال مغمضة: نحن هاتان العينان معا وإلى الأبد. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start reading the translated version of the poem. Where Do You Live by Hanaa Ahmad Jabr. I do not know the name of the first war that birthed me. Perhaps no one recorded it. Perhaps the tigers witnessed it. Alone knowing every direction, alone remembering the myths and the facts, attending its flow since forever. I live here in the north, where memory is bloody soulful, where I belong to the river, and stand on one bank, one eye open, staring at the ruins of the old city, decaying, whispering, O God of old alleys, protect us from the next wall. Here I am watching the Shems Gate reanimating, the walls of Niviv, the statue of Abu Tamam waving to arrivals, the bridges connecting the lungs of the city, the clouds eager for rain, unsecured by smoke, the river rushing without bodies of war to stop it, and many more sidewalks. And other things breaking news cannot mention, nor rehab for PTSD, nor reports from the BBC or CNN, nor any channels. Yes, I live here, while my other eye is closed, hiding dreadful war scenes, with nothing to help me from a description, nor a grandmother's tale, nor children's dreams, nor poetry festivals, nor literary criticism, nor horror movies, not UN reports, nor history text. No sentence in any language could bear the weight of that terror. Here I feel my eyes swelling with it all, carrying the arches for future generations. And here my face swells too, my arms, my torso. Oh, I am here, embracing myself, swelled again, and rising. I think I fill up words as usual. Now, Jennifer, you may wonder, who are you? What is your hometown? And I will answer immediately, with one eye still closed. We are the two eyes together, forever.
Where do you live? I should say I live in my body, in the knowledge I was fated for, like you said, Hannah, poetry. And even if I try hard not to, I tell all the truth, but tell it slant. I live in these secrets, spelled out for the curious. I live in Salem, with the ghosts of accused witches. I live in the San Fernando Valley, in California, in my poems. I live in fear of loneliness, but my real hometown is anger at the way things are when they should be better. I've decided to move away from should. I want to say I live in peace if we're talking about time folding into the now, the future being now. At least I live in motion along those folds sometimes when I'm talking to you, Hannah. When I fly, I think I've always lived in midair, from Boston to Kolkata, from San Francisco to Seoul. I asked a pilot once about the hometown of a baby born mid-flight. He didn't know what to say. He paused forever. He may have been telling the truth, but slant. I'm still waiting for answers. I used to live in wasted days, staring at sunshine and trees. They were wasted on me then, but not now. I live there now, in this poem. You can live forever in a poem. I live in the middle of creation when I can. It's the best way to live.
القصيدة الثانية ستكون 3 حكايات. أحدثك عن الأرض التي تبلع أحلام الحبيبات والأمهات وحلوى العيد. الأرض التي تبلع الجنود وتحولهم إلى سواتر ومدن جديدة ونصب مجهول وذكريات طاعنة في الوجع. أحدثك عن الليالي التي أصبحت فيها كل القصائد مريبة والزوايا بلا سكينة والضوء جرح تنز منه شهقات لا حدود لها. أحدثك عن كل حرب وثقت تاريخها بثقب في صوتي حتى أصبح نايا. شكرا.
The second poem will be Three Tales by Hanaa Ahmad Jabr. I talk to you, the other, about a nation consuming the dreams of lovers, mothers, and the holiday sweets of Eid. About the soil swallowing soldiers, turning them to mounds. New metropolises, faceless monuments, and recollections that are obedient to stab in pain. I talk to you, the other, about nightfalls turning the poem suspicious, the corners restless, and the light into a wound from which boundless gasps ooze. I talk to you, the other, about the way each word documented its history, with a hole in my voice until it became a flute.
Three Tales by Jennifer Jean. My mom tries to convince me she didn't leave me for 7 years. I'm driving through Salem. This is a dangerous game. To win, I can't play. I can't want to play. I can only grip the wheel, breathe, practice forgiveness, which means shining a light on facts, even though, as you say, Hannah, light becomes a wound from which boundless gasps ooze. A part of my second tale is the tale you didn't tell me, Hannah. I was born on the 4th of July. We dance around this fact, but dancing is how we know each other. The third tale is that I want control when God is in control. Hannah, if we walk Salem's streets, talk, and feel a warm wind, we did not tell that breeze to touch our hair. Which reminds me of the time technology told me the Arabic word for hair is the Arabic word for poetry, which is a lovely mystery.
القصيدة الثالثة فتاة الحي إلى جينيفر جين. لم تكن تشعر بالوحدة فوحدتها معي، كما يقول ذلك شاعر عراقي. وهذا الحي المريب لم يكن سوى لغز لا يهمها فكه، تجاهلت صمته المفاجئ، بيوته المتشابكة، أبوابه الصغيرة، وجدرانه الداكنة التي تشبه أغصان شجرة لوز وحيدة. فتاة لا يهمها سوى السماء التي تستلقي فوق بيتها، وسور بيتها الذي يمنعها من رؤية العاطلين عن الحياة. فتاة لا يهمها سوى تلك السماء التي تراها عند الفرح بحرا يتموج بهدوء، وعند النعاس خرافا صغيرة تركض باتجاه الأفق، وعند الحزن شيئا من كحل أمها، وعند كل عودة من المدرسة تقفز عبر عتبة باب بيتها برجل واحدة، وهي ترمي وراء ظهرها حزمة لأشياء لا تهمه. وهكذا استمر شريط حياتها. دخلت ذلك الحي طفلة وخرجت شاعرة.
The third poem will be A Girl of the Neighborhood for Jennifer Jean by Hanaa Ahmad Jabr. She did not feel lonely, for her loneliness was with her. Adnan Al-Sayegh. And this eerie neighborhood was a mystery she did not care to solve. She ignored its sudden silences. Twined apartments, narrow doors, shadowed walls, like the branches of a lonely almond tree. A girl cares only about the azure ocean above her home, and every border keeping her from the lifeless ones. A girl cares only about that sky. When joyful, this girl saw serenity in the waves of that sea. When drowsy, she saw little lands golloping at the horizon. When mournful, she lined her eyes with her mother's kuhl. With every return from school, with one foot, she'd leave over the doorstep, deserting a hefty bundle of things she hated. And so the movie of her life carried on. She'd crossed the threshold a child. She'd leave later a poet.
High noon. And did I tell you, Hannah, American history is wrapped in film? We watch our gunslingers meet when the sun is directly overhead, so the gunfight is fair, so neither man is blinded by anything other than hatred, short-sightedness, ingratitude, ego. Some of us believe in this scene. Some of us believe in their dusty women crying at home, but some of us believe in the fact of a clear sky so blue, two bodies can bathe in sunlight, see down the center of a dirt road in a rustic hometown, see for miles, see into the niches and nooks of each other's faces, a miracle. We think this lack of shadow is heaven, and it's only heaven if we've nothing to hide. Let's meet here, Hannah, on the original road of this mutual hometown with our translator, Wadaq. And once we all get used to the terrible discomfort of imperfect understanding, we'll know heaven, we'll know friendship is possible.
So I think we have time for one more each. Do you want to read one more poem each?
Okay. نقرأ قصيدة خامسة. We will read the fourth poem.
Okay.
Yeah. بريد غير سري للغاية. لا وطن أدس رأسي في صدره وأبكي. لا حرب تقتل ذاكرتي. هكذا أجيب عيني جينيفر وهما تنصتان لسيرة أصابعي. لا يد تلوح من فوق الجسر العتيق، ولا جار يراعي حاجتنا لصوت فيروز. لا حقيبة أحفظ فيها فساتين سهر وصورة لشفتي قبل اليباس. لا حبيب يهاتفني صباحا هامسا استيقظي ليصحو العالم. لا أهل يصلحون للهجران لأزج نفسي في أقرب منفى. لا صديق يربت على كتف حزني ويجعل يدي تتوقف عن التلويح لموت قريب، فالموت هو أن نتوقع حدوثه.
The fourth poem will be Very Non-Classified Information by Hanaa Ahmad Jabr. No homeland keeps a chest where my head can cry. No war kills my memory. That's how I answer your eyes, Jennifer, which listen to my hand's life story. No hand waves over the old bridge. No neighbor takes into account our need for the voice of Beirut. No luggage keeps my evening dresses and a picture of my lips before they dry. No lover calls me in the morning whispering, "Wake up, let the world wake up." No family is fit for my leaving, for plunging myself into the nearest exile. No friend strokes the shoulder of my sadness, no stops my hand which welcomes death. Death is to expect death.
And for my final poem, I just want to say that I'm mentioning Chloe, who is my daughter, and I'm also mentioning Haya, who is Hannah's niece. And the poem is called Where Little Girls Live. In all my rooms, I've a large photo of Chloe when she was Haya's age. She leaps forever from the center of a pile of October leaves in Salem. Gold, bronze, blush, rust, the leaves leap too. Every one is still, smudged, in motion. Horizontal white and black stripes cut across her shirt, the scene. White dots scatter down her black pants. Two candy pink shoes hover above the messy joy of autumn foliage on the chilling earth. Her arms are as wide as forever, her smile as wide as Haya's when she wore her first cap and gown. Do you remember this delight? I do, and carry it daily, gaze at its leaping in the off-season.
Yeah, so beautiful. That was, of course, Jennifer Jean reading Where Little Girls Live, the last poem she'll be sharing, and wonderful poems and translations by Hanaa Ahmad Jabr, translations by Wadaq Qais. And thanks so much for sharing that. Such beautiful poetry. The music between the two and the intimacy of the voice is just wonderful to listen to. Everybody was really enjoying the way, going back and forth in dialogue through poetry was working. What can you tell us about how it felt to engage in this project? I think it's a question for both of you, one then the other, but having that personal intimacy. One of the things that we talk about sometimes is how important it is to have a sense of who you're writing to when you're writing poems, and I think the intimacy comes across in that. So can you talk a little bit about what it was like to have that direct correspondence through poetry?
I can speak to that first. It did change how I wrote to know that I was writing to a specific person. That is for sure. And also, I think we talked about it a little bit, that we were also not just talking to each other, but we were talking to each other's audiences in a way. So, my voice can reach Iraqi audiences and folks in the Arab world because my poems are now in Arabic. So I did have that awareness, and that was the scarier one. That was the scarier awareness. So I would often just kind of let that go if it encroached too much on my writing process, and just focus on Hannah and our exchanges, because we talked a lot outside of the poems. We talked in Zoom and WhatsApp and in other ways through Facebook, all different ways, and told each other our life stories. And so we would respond to those things, just like friends respond to each other. So it was a careful balance. that me, walking that line of intimacy for me.
Yeah.
And Wada, can you translate for the question for Hannah?
Yes, sure. دكتورة هناء، سأل هو سؤال هنا المقدم: شنو شعرتي باندماجك بهذا المشروع، بالأخص الإحساس والعلاقة العاطفية والانتماء لهذا المشروع، وشون كتبتوا القصائد أثناء ما أنتم تتعرفون على بعضكم البعض؟ جينيفر جاوبت أول شيء بالبداية وذكرت أنه تحدثنا أنت وياها، يعني تحدثتوا مو فقط بعضكم البعض بل أيضا لجماهيركم أيضا، فكان الخطاب مو بس متوجه لإلك إنما لجمهورك الخاص أيضا، وهي كونها شاعرة أمريكية كيف تحدثت وانضمت لجمهورك العراقي. وتحدثتوا أيضا السبب اللي نمى هذا الانتماء العاطفي والتعرف على بعضكم البعض كان من خلال كثير من المنصات، من سواء الفيسبوك، سواء الواتساب، سواء المكالمات اللي كنا نلتقي بها الأسبوعية أو الشهرية. فالعلاقة نمت ويا الوقت وأثناء هذا الالتقاء.
طبعا أنا أحب يعني الصداقة الشعرية اللي جمعتني بجينيفر، ولأنه من خلال هذا المشروع خلى ذاكرتنا تتحفز، فخلانا نكتب أشياء عن الأشياء اللي نتذكرها والأشياء اللي ننتظرها والأشياء اللي نحلم بيها. وأعتقد أنه هاي الثلاثة هي مكونات الإنسان. ومثل ما يعني جينيفر كانت توجه الكلام مو بس إلى الجمهور العراقي، أنا أيضا يعني بالوقت نفسه كانت أوجه الكلام لجمهور يختلف عن بيئتي وثقافتي، جمهور آخر عابر للقارات. لذلك كانت يعني على يعني مسؤولية، أشعر بمسؤولية تجاه هذا اللي أكتبه، لأنه اللي أكتبه حتى لو كان ينقل تجربة ذاتية معاشة أنا عشتها، سواء بالحرب، سواء بحياتي الشعرية العملية في بيتي، عن أهلي، هو بالتالي يعبر عن تجربة جماعية موجهة إلى جمهور أكبر. فأنا أمثل فئة عن جمهور أكبر، وجينيفر تمثل فئة عن جمهور أكبر. فعدا ذلك أنه أنا أشعر بالانتماء لهذا النص لأنها نصوص عفوا البرنامج، لأنها نصوص حية كتبت آنيا. فأنا عندما كتبت مثلا فتاة الحي، القصيدة التي قرأتها قبل قليل، هي تراكمات مما سمعته عن جينيفر، لأن لقاءاتنا لم نكن نتحدث فقط عن الشعر، لقاءاتنا نتحدث عن الحياة اليومية بكل بساطة وسلاسة، وكأننا صديقتين يعني التقيتا على فنجان قهوة وقاعدين يدردشون يعني فبذكرياتهم وبأحلامهم. وهذه تؤثر بطريقة غير مباشرة على كتابة القصائد، وهذا ما شاهدناه على الأقل في قصائد التي قرأت اليوم. جينيفر ذكرت بنت أخي لأنها كانت متابعتني على الفيسبوك، أنا ذكرتها فتاة الحي وبعض تفاصيل حياتها، فلذلك أشعر أنا وقصائدي بكثير من الانتماء والامتنان لهذا المشروع.
Hannah mentions that she is really grateful and happy for this poetic friendship with Jennifer, especially through this program. This program aligned their minds and memory and creation. Just as Jennifer mentioned, Hannah also voiced her poems to a foreign audience, a completely different people, culture, from different backgrounds, and she tried to address them. So she felt really responsible to share her story with this audience. The process of writing these texts, these poems, was live, and the poems themselves were alive within time and for a period of time that hopefully will go on. The poems that lived with them through life, matters, and friendship. These poems affected these poems and how they lived with them throughout the conversation and the life really affected the poems themselves and how they were wrote. It connected them. It had a lot of personal details that we can see and witness, especially in the poems that were recited today in here. she's really grateful and happy to have this opportunity and to join such a meeting.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much that's wonderful. I wanted to ask both of you too, what it was that you learned from each other through this process that was surprising to you. Jennifer, do you want to go first? But was there something that you learned about Iraqi culture or something like that you didn't expect, that surprised you?
Yes, there was something unexpected. It's actually so of course I follow Hanaa on Facebook and I read her posts, and she has a sharp sense of humor that's like sharp like a knife. But I really like that. I really, really appreciate it. And the way that she talks about poetry and the poetry world, there are parallels. So that's what was fascinating to me, that there are a lot of parallels, but she's much more honest than I am about her criticisms of the poetry world. Just she's saying things that I recognize go on here in America and the West that I wish I could say, but I just either I'm not brave enough or I just feel like I don't know how to say it in a way that could be received, which probably means I'm afraid.
Well,
But in
for
any
example,
case,
what kind of thing?
oh, I can't say. I can't. Well, no, one thing that I know you could relate to, actually, Tim, is about criticism, the need for criticism and being honest with what you like instead of following trends, where people sort of are following where the trends are and checking out who each other likes instead of just being honest and saying, this popular person, I don't like it. Something simple like that. I know that you've talked a lot on Rattle about criticism and the need for it and how it's disappeared and everybody's too nice and not just nice but basically false with their feedback publicly. So I can say that's fine. That's one thing I learned, and it's just they have a very robust and she's definitely deep in this robust poetry community that I really appreciate and am learning from through following her on Facebook. But also, I guess on a personal level, just how profoundly she was affected by war. That's something that just is still with me, that will always live with me, and that I hope that audiences in America understand through our exchange in the book.
حناء، أول شيء المقابل ذكرت سؤال وسأل سؤال، هو شنو تعلمتوا من العمل مع بعضكم البعض؟ ووجه سؤال خاص لجينيفر، شنو تعلمتي من الحضارة العراقية؟ فجينيفر ردت عليه قالت إنه الحس الفكاهي الحاد اللي يمتلكوه العراقيين بالأخص هناء، وحسها الحاد، صراحتها ومباشرتها بالكلام بالنشر ونقدها أيضاً. ذكرت أيضاً أنه تعلمت من هذا المشروع وهذا البرنامج أنه العالمين الأمريكي والعراقي هما نوعاً ما عالمين متشابهين ومتضادين البعض، الحضارة تشبه بعضها الأخرى. ذكرت أيضاً أنه هي كلش تقدر وتحب شلون أنتي مغروسة عميقاً بعالم الشعر، وحتى شلون على الصعيد العاطفي، على الصعيد الشخصي شلون انتي كنتي متأثرة كثير بالحروب وتعرفت عليش بهذه التفاصيل.
طيب، اللي تعلمناه من هذا المشروع أول شيء الصبر، يعني لأنه القصائد يعني هي الفن أو الشعر بصورة عامة هو الفن الوحيد اللي هو يجي، يعني مو إحنا ننتظره، يعني هو مو كتابة قصة أو رواية نقعد نكتب تفاصيلها وكذا، هو يجي. فنحن يعني نوعا ما جازفنا بهذا المشروع، لأنه أفرضي قاعدنا نكتب وقصائد ما أجت، شو نسوي يعني؟ نسد الباب يعني فكانت مجازفة من نوع آخر يعني، لأنه أغلب القصائد اللي كتبناها كان يحتاج لها فعلا صبر لحتى تنتج، ولذلك إحنا طولنا فترة زمنية لحتى انتجنا هذا الكم من القصائد المتناوبة في الإرسال. شيء آخر تعلمته أنه رغم أنه لأنه هذا المشروع إجا مباشرة بعد خروجي من الحرب، أنه أكو حياة وأكو ناس تريد تسمع شكو، وأقدر أوصل صوتي يعني الأبعد من حدود العراق إلى لغات أخرى، إلى شعوب أخرى تجمعنا بيهم الإنسانية. هذا المشروع علمني هاي النقطة، وإنه جميعنا عندنا يعني عندنا طفولة وعندنا مراهقة وعندنا معاناة وعندنا كذا إلى حد ما متشابهة حتى وإن اختلفت الثقافات. علمني إنه أنا فعلا أيضا أسلط الضوء على حضارة بلدي، لأنه بلدي المنكوب واللي يعاني من حروب، هذه الحروب طارئة، لأنه هو حضارته أكبر وأعمق من هذه الحروب التي تظهر على شاشات التلفزة. ويمكن علمني بأنه نوصل صوتنا للعالم الآخر ونقول لهم ترى هناك نساء مبدعات في العراق، ليس فقط نساء قتلى في الحروب.
Participating in this project has firstly made me learn more about patience and how to address it correctly. Poet writing isn't something that happens instantly, but it comes alongside time. It needs time, it needs patience, it needs inspirations. So it was really risky to write within a time limit. And that is perhaps why it took so much time to finally come with this many poems within the book. This project has made Hanaa learn a lot about herself, especially that this project came after the period when she first got out of the war. It allowed her to learn that her voice was being heard and she can share it across countries and nations. That is to be heard by many, no matter how different they are, no matter how different the culture are, no matter how different the audience is. It also made her learn to shed light onto her country's cultural and its sorrows, especially that country, Iraq country, has witnessed a lot of many of wars and sorrows. It also made her learn that to share the voices of women, that they are being killed, and alongside all of its audience really within wars, is something that she must address and must let the public know.
I want to know, for Hanaa, we have this sort of maybe fantasy that poetry is more respected in other countries than it is in the United States, with all of our pop culture everywhere. And I think we dream of maybe a place where poetry is more respected. And so I always wonder when we have guests from other countries and cultures if what the place is for poetry there currently. Are there a lot of readers? Jennifer mentioned the poetry community. And I just love a better sense of what the poetry community is like in Mosul and in Iraq more broadly. What is the place for poetry there for regular people, I guess?
تيموثي يتساءل هنا سؤال لإلك دكتور هنا، ويسأل هم كشعب أمريكي دائما عندهم هذا الخيال على أنه الشعر محترم أكثر بالدول الأخرى وبالدول الخارجية، فهو بالأخص أنه يعني أمريكا معروفة بحضارتها الآنية ونقدر نقول المزاولة ويا الوقت. فسؤال هنا هو شنو موقف القراء العرب والعراقيين بالتحديد، القراء العاديين، هل الشعر محترم بهذه الصورة بهذه الدرجة ولا له تقدير عالي، أو شنو الوضع يعني عامة بخصوص الشعر؟
يعني احنا العرب بصورة عامة أمة تحب الشعر، يعني حتى يعني يقال بأنه الشعر ديوان العرب، ديوانهم يعني مجلسهم، لقاءاتهم. خاصة يعني العراق بمدارس شعرية هواية لأجيال مختلفة. وعلى فكرة حتى الشعر الحديث اللي هو يسمى الشعر الحر هو يعني أول من جدد في العراق، يعني عند بدر شاكر السياب ونازك الملائكة. فإحنا العراقيين سواء كان حتى شعر شعبي أو شعر فصيح لصيق بحياتنا اليومية، لأنه يعبر عن هويتنا ويعبر عن ثقافتنا وتاريخنا. فالشعر محترم في كل مكان، وإن يعني كان حاله حال الشعر في الدول الأخرى، وسبق وتحدثنا أنا وجينيفر بهاي بأنه نوعا ما يجلب الفقر يعني لصاحبه، لأن الشعراء ليسوا أغنياء في العادة، ليسوا مثل الممثلين والمغنيين، ولكن مع ذلك يعني الشعر هو لصيق العراقيين، يمكن لأنه العراقيين آه، يعني مولعين بالحزن، مليئين بالحزن بسبب الحروب، فيترجمون هذا إلى نوتات إيقاعية شعرية، سواء كانت شعبية أو فصيحة.
In general, we Arabs adore poetry. It is also said that poetry is Diwan al-Arab, which pretty much means that poetry is where we sit and converse with each other. And especially in Iraq, since the emergence of the free verse poetry in Iraq and then spread to the other Arab countries, we use this poetry to represent oneself, the country, the people within, to connect with each other. It is also said in a humorous way that poetry is said to bring poverty, because usually people who recite poetry and write it aren't really that much of a rich people. But despite everything, poetry is still the common language of us as Arabs, and we still use it up till today. And poetry in general is really well respected.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for that, for Hanaa and Wadaq for translating. Wadaq, I wanted to ask you what your process was like for translating these poems. You translated both from Arabic to English, and then Jennifer's poems from English to Arabic. What was that experience like for you? And you personally, do you write poetry yourself? I was wondering too. But can you speak a little bit about what the process was like, and what any special challenges that came up in doing that process of doing these wonderful translations?
Oh, thank you. The process was quite challenging for me because, you see, I was a sophomore student when I first addressed to this project, so everything was quite new. And the idea of translating poems was really difficult. Even if you think about it, to translate a poem, it kind of gets you shaky a little bit. But I quite enjoyed the process, and it was really asserting to me to be able to communicate with both poets and to get their details to actually understand the poems. So it was really communicative way of translating. I'd usually check the poem at first, read it, get to know it, and then I'd just write down some questions to send to Jennifer or Hannah, the person who wrote the poem. And then we'd meet with each other through a Zoom call or a meeting or even a call through WhatsApp to get to know the answer of my questions and try to work on the first draft, then go back. So it was like go back and forth into every poem until we reach the final version that you can see within the book.
Yeah. I had one other question for Hanaa about, she mentioned free verse poetry, and how that prose poetry, I think, is what it's more directly translated as. I think that Jennifer mentioned that maybe at the top or somewhere. But how, why in particular that is becoming more widespread, and why, is that a bigger part of the conversation now? I mean, what's that? The movement behind that. I'm curious about what the movement away from more formal poetry into, a free verse type style, where that comes from and what the effect is. Because the same thing, of course, happened in English language poems too.
دكتورة حناء، تيموثي يسأل ذكرتي أنت الشعر الحر وشون بدأ ينتشر وبالعراق وشنو صاحبه، فتقدرين تسولفينا شوية عن الحركة الشعرية اللي صارت وشلون انتقل للشعر الحر بالذات وشنو منبعه يعني بالأصل؟
طيب، بالبداية نحن معتادين على الشعر الكلاسيكي اللي صار له تقريبا 1400 سنة. الشعر الكلاسيكي اللي نسميه هو القائم على الوزن والقافية، وهو قائم على نظام الشطرين في اللغة العربية يعني، ففيه إيقاع محدد، وهذا العرب يعتزون به، أو الشعوب العربية بصورة عامة، لأنه يمثل تراثهم، تاريخهم. فعندما جاءت حركة الشعر الحر تحديدا في العراق في أربعينيات القرن الماضي، يعني تقريبا 1947، هناك شاعران كتبا، أول من كتبا في هذا الشعر وهما بدر شاكر السياب ونازك الملائكة. كتباه متأثرين بالثقافة الإنجليزية، يعني تأثروا بالشعر الإنجليزي اللي هو الشعر الحر. الشعر الحر مو كلش يعني اتخطى وتجاوز حدود الشعر الكلاسيكي، تجاوزه في أمور بسيطة ليس في كل الأمور. فتأثروا بالترجمات التي وصلت إلى العراق، يعني لا سيما مثلا قراءاتهم بعد الحرب العالمية الأولى، هكذا شيء يعني. فبال47 تقريبا كتبوا أول قصيدتين، وحتى نحن عندنا الريادة لهم تنسب لهذين الشاعرين. فلما اجى هاي البعض حبوا التجديد، الجمهور دا احكي، البعض حبوا التجديد لانه هذا الشعر يواكب الحياة وثقافتها، والبعض الاخر جعله يعني دخيلا على الشعر، لانه هم اذنهم الموسيقية معتادة على انه تسمع ايقاع معين وشطرين. فلذلك نما الشعر الحر في العراق، وبدر شاكر السياب كتب الكثير من الدواوين فيه ونازك الملائكة، و يعني صارت حركة شعرية كبيرة. وبعدهم بسنوات، طبعا نحن هنا الشعر الحر لا نقصد خالي من الوزن تماما، بعدهم جاءت نوع آخر من الشعر اللي هو قصيدة النثر، وهي لها جذور فرنسية ولها جذور إنجليزية. طبعا وأنا بوصفي ناقدة ودرستها في رسالتي للماجستير، أرجح بأن أصولها فرنسية، بودلير أول ما كتبها. فهذه يعني الشعر الآن في العراق ينضوي تحت هذه الثلاث أنواع: الشعر الكلاسيكي القديم، والشعر الحر، وقصيدة النثر. وكلها لديها جمهور، وكلها أيضا لديها من يعارضها. هناك من يقول أن الشعر القديم يعني انتهى وقته وجمد وصار عبارة عن نظم فقط، يعني فقط إيقاع دون حياة أو فكرة، وينادي بالشعر الحر. وهناك من ينادي بقصيدة النثر على اعتبار أن الشاعر عفوا حر بترجمة أفكاره. أنا مع كل الأنواع، أنا مع الشعر أينما كتب، فقط عليه أن يحافظ على شعرية النص.
Okay, so initially the poetry within the Arabic culture was really classical and had a strict procedure and formatting. It actually dated back to 1400 years ago. It contained the rhyme and rhythm, and also known as al-qasida, which is a long type of poem. That type of poem was really precious to the Arabic word and the Arabic side and even the Iraqi side. But within the free verse movement and how it emerged at first around 1947, the first people who adopted this type and technique of writing was Badr Shakir al-Sayyab and Nazik al-Malaike. The free verse type of writing didn't really cross the known formatting of poetry in al-Qasida that allowed it to be more tangible and to be processed to the Arabic audience. And for the audience, a part of the audience loved it, loved the new blood to the scene, and really enjoyed it. But it had some other audience did not enjoy it that much. They saw it as being so different, being so foreign, because they were used to the old qasida and how it was recited, and the poetic rhythm, the poetic Arabic rhyme too. Both poets, Badr Shakir al-Sayyab and Nazik al-Malaike, wrote many poems using the free verse poems writing in order to tell the people and get them more familiar with the poems and how to write it. And as a critic, Hanaa says that she believes another form of poems came to the scene that is another type of free verse. She believes this type of poem is French. It came as its first writing was seen and witnessed in Baudelaire, and it had many audiences. Every poem really had many different audience and to seek, and to some accept it and some just declined it. Hannah mentioned also that she is within poetry, no matter the type, no matter the shape. She enjoys all poetry as long as it contains a specific idea and this sort of a rhyme and musicality within the tone and writing.
Well, thanks so much for that. Jennifer, I had a question for you. I'm wondering how much this project has changed or affected the way you encounter your own poetry. Do you think about your own writing in a different way now that you've been through this process and this project?
Oh, definitely. Because I was part of the translation process, bringing Hannah's poems into English, that made me more aware of my language and being more economical and brief and exact. Also when I had to answer questions about my poems as Hanaa and Wadaq translated them into Arabic, I had to think about, why did I put this here? And a poem that I thought was completely finished, I started second guessing in a different way than I would if I were workshopping that poem. I was more thinking, what's useful, what's actually conveying things, and also because as we talked about earlier, audience, I started thinking about my audience being something broader. And that, as I mentioned before, it was daunting, but I realized that is something I wanted, and I had to make that decision actually. Like, am I going to remain insular? Am I for my own New England community of writers, even that insular? Am I going to broaden to the rest of the nation and the world, and make my content, my poems, my heart vulnerable to the rest of the world? And then I decided, yes, I want to do that. So that changes how I write in general. And I think that was always something I wanted to do, but this project really pushed me across a threshold that I needed that push. So it made me become more myself and the best kind of poet that I could possibly be. And I do notice my rhythms are different. I'm more accepting of varying rhythms. I've always had kind of a jazzy, shifting rhythms throughout, with some kind of one thread going throughout most of my poems. But I was always very suspicious of my own tendency to do that because I didn't see that elsewhere very much. I mean, it is out there, but I didn't see it very much. And through this process, I felt that I could trust my instincts more. And trust my instincts, as I said, even to let things go that weren't necessary also, so it's definitely changed. And I recommend, the last thing I want to say about it is, for anyone who's listening, even if you don't know another language, I don't know Arabic, to be honest, I have to work with a co-translator. I recommend highly doing this process, at least as an exercise, if not trying to get, a translated piece published. You do it as an exercise because it really shifts your brain about your own work and how you look at English.
Mm-hmm. Just to follow up on that a little bit, do you feel like your sense of the importance of poetry is that's greater now, given this, cultural exchange?
It's more like the things that I thought were important aren't, and the things I thought weren't are. Like there was a shift.
Yeah.
It is important. I've realized it's very important as a means of communication. It's just one more way of communicating, another kind of art, because all art, I've realized through working with working with artists from different disciplines, all art has that power to communicate, and poetry is one more art to do that. But it's very powerful, and especially if you're thoughtful about it and thoughtful about projects that you do, it can, it has that kind of importance. I think about some I have my own criticisms of trends of poetry, and one trend is that people are telling a narrative, and it's just a narrative and chopped up prose, and it's a vignette of their lives, but it doesn't have vertical depth, going on deep and rooting somewhere. I've realized that, that's something that I want to make sure my poetry doesn't do, because I just feel like it has so much more power to affect change in the world. And so we have to carry that very preciously. But on the other hand, the things I thought were so important that aren't are that, I take it myself less seriously too. I don't know if this makes sense, but just like, I don't feel like I'm on an ivory tower that can't be touched. It's like, in one sense, it's just poetry, it's just words. So I guess maybe my own sense of my own importance is what's less, and the importance of the poetry and the act is more, so things are writing themselves, I think, in a good way after this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jennifer. A question for Hanaa. Rahaf S.A. on here is really well familiar with Iraqi poetry and leaving a lot of great comments on YouTube. And he mentions the Iraqi people are known for being known for their honest and sharp poetry. Most famous Iraqi poets were known for criticizing power figures, and that seems like such the Iraqi poet. We've published Salah al-Hamdani in Rattle, and that was a poem. Baghdad Mon Amour, and Salah was exiled to France, and so there's a lot of that in that tradition. And I wonder if you feel your own poetry, is there any way you have to censor yourself or fear of, reprisal or in any way? Or do you feel open to push through those and be political? Is it difficult to be political in that environment? Because here, poets can kind of say whatever they want because no one cares. This is kind of the situation we live in.
دكتورة حنان، تيموثي هنا يسأل سؤال. يقول واحد من التعليقات اللي تحت معلق أنه العراقيين بالعادة معروفين بانتقادهم وحسهم الفكاهي اللاذع، وحتى المشهورين والمعروف عنهم بأنحاء العراق معروفين عن نقدهم اللاذع للشخصيات المهمة أو السياسية. يذكر هنا أيضا عن نفي شخصية تعرف باسم صلاح الفرنسي بسبب أقواله وكلامه. يسأل هنا شلون أنت تحسين عن الشعر اللي أنت تكتبيه، وهل تحسين عندك القابلية على أنه تدفعين خارج عن هذه الحدود السياسية وتحشين بصراحة وتعبرين عن نفسك تحصلين حرية الكلام اللي تحتاجيها من خلال الشعر؟
أولا هو الشعر اللغة تسعف المرأة أو تسعف الشخص الشاعر بصورة عامة ليدلي بآرائه كالمعارضة، يقول كل شيء بأسلوب مهذب، يعني لأنه إذا قال كل شيء بأسلوب غير مهذب يعني راح أكيد يهدد أمنه، يهدد استقراره وأهله. يعني الشعر يقول كل شيء، ينتقد سياسي، ينتقد رجل دين، ينتقد أب، ينتقد أم، لا مقدسات في الشعر. ولكن لأن له هذه اللغة اللي يغلفها رمزية، هي التي تسعف صاحبه من حبل المشنقة. وإلا كل الحكومات المتحضرة في العالم لا تسمح بحرية الشعر المباشرة، لأن ذلك يعني معارضة يعني مباشرة أمامها. وكل المؤسسات بأي مؤسسة ثقافية سياسية دينية اقتصادية لا تسمح بذلك الشيء. فأنا سعيدة لأنني أكتب الشعر وأقول كل شيء بأسلوب مهذب، فأنا أعمل كالمعارضة لكل شيء في الحياة، لكل شيء طبعا لا أرضى عنه، يعني مو لكل شيء، أنا لست رافضة للحياة. وأنا أوافق الرأي على فكرة، وأنا أيضا يعني أسلوبي الساخر. كثير من المتلقين والنقاد في العراق وفي العالم العربي يعني يتلقون قصائدي بهذا الأسلوب. ويمكن جينيفر تعرف، متابعتني على الفيسبوك، أنه أنا نفسي ساخر، أنتقد هواية بس بلغة مهذبة.
Hannah mentions that this is something that Jennifer has talked about before in here. as Jennifer knows, that Hannah also has this little bit of a strong voice that criticizes everything in a humorous way, as you can see in her post and Facebook post and even in her writings. Uh, Hannah believes that poetry is a language that helps the poet to address everything in a polite manner, no matter who it is and no matter what it is, no matter the ordeal, no matter the country, the person behind the one in control. The poetry serves as a shield to protect the free speech a poet has, but it also makes it polite and in a way that is more acceptable and accessible too, no matter the person, no matter the whole matter too. Hannah also mentions that she opposes everything negative in life, and throughout that speech, she writes it down in a poetry form, and she shares her poems as that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, she really agrees with you.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks so much for that. Jennifer, one last thing. I'm just wondering what's next for this project? Are you continuing writing more poems back and forth? And what is going on with Her Story Is and that collective?
Well, my hope is to do a co-translation of Hannah's work, and that's something I'm negotiating right now, so that it would just be just a book of hers, and not a back and forth at all. But I would be involved in the co-translation part of that. That's so look for that, everybody. Coming news of that, is I'm crossing my fingers that happens very soon. That news of that would happen, and we would bring out and introduce in English just one of her collections that's already produced in Iraq. And then other than that, for Her Story Is, where I was just on a text thread earlier today, we are very interested in having another meetup together with all the Iraqis and the Americans coming together. We met last time in Dubai, and we want to do that again. But it's very difficult, I think, on the Iraqi side for them to travel. So we have to negotiate this, and it's something that we want to happen this year, which sounds crazy because nothing's in place yet. But we're hopeful, and especially Hannah and I are hopeful to meet each other in person for the first time, because it's amazing that we haven't yet met. It's going to be probably on my part lots of tears of joy, and yeah, it's something that's meant to be, because we have a lot of it, even though we're from different cultures. Hannah has mentioned this. Sometimes it feels like we have some shared memories of circumstances in our lives that have happened, and it might come from just being both women poets. That's enough of a common base where we had some similar things. Like one time I told her about how my mom burned. I think this might be in one of the poems too. My mom burned her poems. My mom wrote poetry when she was younger, and she got a criticism. This is for all you poets out there. Don't do this. But my mom did it, and she was criticized, and she just threw all her poems in this barrel and burnt them.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I know, it just quakes you. And so Hannah told me a story about how she was criticized. She did not burn all her poems. She actually persevered through it. But there were other stories, like just some kind of parallels going on. And yeah, anyway, so we want to meet because we feel very deeply connected on so many levels. And Her Story is going to bring us together, and there'll be other projects. We have visual artists in our group. We have videographers, documentarians in our group, and painters. I said visual artists, but in any case, painters, sculptors, and people who do academic research on women's voices. Just all different kinds of people from different field disciplines, and we hope to come together again and exchange ideas and craft practices, and also other kinds of collaboration. So pay attention to my page, or look up Hannah's page, and you all can find out more. We also have a website that we just created. My daughter Chloe actually helped create it. If you look up Her Story Is Project website, you'll discover it. I can't remember offhand the URL. Sorry about that, but I know you all can go to Google and find it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the website, last night. So congratulations to Chloe for putting that together. That's really cool. Yeah, thanks so much for being here for this wonderful project. It's so inspiring. To Hanaa, Wadaq, and Jennifer, it's so great to have you all on, and thanks for sharing your poetry and your wonderful words. And I hope everybody picks up a copy of this great book, which Jennifer's holding up there. Yeah, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
All right, and that is going to wrap up the featured poets segment. So once again, the poets this week were Hanaa Ahmad Jabr, Wadaq Qais in translation, and Jennifer Jean. You can find their book, Where Do You Live, at arrowsmithpress.com. That's arrowsmithpress, all one word.com. Find the book there. And wonderful work that they're doing. I'm trying to look up the website. Let's see, find a URL for her story is. I just had it, but it's not coming up. Let's see, Jennifer Jean. The URL isn't indexed yet. Her story is. Let's see. Press Academy Poets. Well, I was just on the site, but it's not coming up right now. But you can find that typing her story is and in getting there somehow. But just wonderful poet, wonderful book. Thanks everybody for listening and joining in. Now we're going to take a quick break and go to our prompt lines. And the prompt for this week was to write a poem set in a garden you've only been to once before and include a metaphor. So that's your prompt for this week. Now, as always, it's a 1-page max for poems. And we want to have it be about a 3-minute time limit for sharing them. So if it's a longer poem, fill up the whole page, just kind of jump right in. We want to make sure we have time for everybody. And if it's a shorter poem, feel free to chat a little bit about where it came, how it came to be and whatnot. But if you'd like to participate and share a poem today about that prompt, email your poems to promptlines@rattle.com. That's promptlines@rattle.com, all one word. And then I can show the poems on the screen like I have been already in this episode. And then join the Zoom link, which I'm about to deploy on YouTube and Facebook. So find that link and jump on, but only if you have a poem to share. If you'd like to just sit back and keep enjoying the poems, the best place to do that is right where you are, because then you can see the poems too on the screen. So stay where you are, and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back with our prompt poems editor, associate editor, and my wife, Katie Dozier. Hey, Katie, how you doing?
Hey, that was fascinating. I now want to get into translating, even though I'm like the most ill-suited person ever to try
Well, we
it.
do, our monolingual nature is always a sense of embarrassment and shame.
It is.
I would love to know other languages, and that's a great way to start, I think.
Yeah, I
is
think
to
so,
start
too.
translating poems. And, we can talk about A.M. Juster, who is the guest, is maybe an inspiration for that, because he only speaks English, but has translated poems from many different languages by slowly and methodically going through and seeking help, and including Petrarch. From maybe at this point he does speak other languages. I don't know, but at the time,
it seems like
that was a topic.
Yeah, but as Jennifer said too, I mean, it benefited her poetry in ways she didn't foresee. So that's really neat too, just to do it for that reason too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so it's the prompt lines time, and the prompt for this week. Oops. Messed that up. There we go. The prompt for this week was right here. Let's do it this way. Oop, I better hit. Hang on a second. We want this down, this up, and then I gotta mute this over here.
We're hearing ourselves from 30 seconds ago.
Zachary Honeycutt, how dare you?
How dare you, sir?
Okay. All right, so the prompt for this week, once again, was to write a poem set in a garden that you've only been to once before and include a metaphor. Okay. So, and we have to warn everybody, this is another... the girls, and usually it's later at night, so Charlotte and really just Charlotte. Lizzie would be a problem.
Probably wouldn't freak out.
But Charlotte's a lot more awake. And
she is very awake. She is right outside the door. I'm trying not to look over there, jumping on top of the couch, taking advantage.
So the odds of Katie cutting out might be high, but let's hear your poem. And you know what? I don't think I got the new. Did you edit it this morning?
I did edit it this morning.
Let me pull it up in a different spot. Hang on a second.
Well, thank you for caring.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. I think it's like here. And wait. We'll get there.
You can show the old one if you want, and then people can see how much I changed.
We'll change the.
Okay.
I'm curious. I want to see the update too. Okay.
Okay.
So here is I gotta scroll down at this document. I gotta make sure not to, because you put the prompt in the bottom too. I gotta make sure not to show the prompt early. When anybody having an hour head start. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Right here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Jardin exotique. Your cliffs were lined with cacti, my eyelashes batting before the shore. Back then, your succulents seemed to offer more, so I dug between the fences. For years, I clawed for roots, pricked my palm as I grabbed a saguaro's hand. But even roses must be dead-headed. I couldn't carve away this limestone fact. I never should have loved you. My cheeks are still chapped. The wind taught me to hit back. Binoculars to down below, I spied on the old casino with its clattering of chips, the rumble of race cars and all we would rev, unaware of the distant, prickly pear blossom, this full bloom of today, with only this left to mist.
Very nice. Yeah, I love the shape and form of that poem.
I pushed it farther because of your suggestion on it to just embrace and look at Tashani Doshi's amazing how she does that and to embrace it as opposed to run away from it. Sometimes I feel that I can get trapped in I know the convention is not to do this, and it can become, the kind of box that's not a good box, even if you do have to know the rules to break them effectively. But
yeah, and given how much you love the plating of poems, why not play with that even more?
Yeah, I'm still undecided if I should put that this garden is in Monaco or not, though. I can't decide. Charlotte feels very strongly, it sounds like.
She does.
Yeah.
All right. So do you think we're going to stick around, or do you want to?
I'm gambling here.
We're gambling. Okay. So my poem was the following. Let's see. I got to switch over to this. Okay. So this was my poem, and this is called Literary Review. And I keep changing the title a little bit. I'm not sure exactly right.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what it's right now. It's going to be something along those lines. Literary Review. The community garden is gone. The rectangular rows of its raised beds frame the same oat grass and milk thistle growing dry beside them. Already the bugs are at work on the wood. The plastic remains of one crop cage whisper like a tattered umbrella, but soon those tent poles will tip. Like every grand idea, this one's gone to seed, all its earnest intention lost to the wind. The founder died, the committee neglected to renew its permit. The drought was too long, the demographics changed, interest waned, and the new highway bypassed town completely. All the reasons are mixed with the weeds. Once, looking up from the infield, I saw an endangered bighorn sheep grazing on the side of the mountain, the gray curves of its horns almost hidden against the gray of the boulders. Only 80 remain on this island of the wild. I pointed for the third baseman, who turned and stared. The left fielder turned and stared, the pitcher, the catcher, the ump, all of us moving through the same process at the same speed, from wonder to recognition, a small joy before the disappointment in realizing it wasn't a sheep, but the statue of one, an archery target someone hoisted high up the ridgeline. It was a prank, or a trail cam, or a tribute. We wondered which, but only briefly before turning back to the game, like a clock's hands turn back to their minutes, like a collection of concrete sundials, forgetting ourselves in the shade of a passing cloud. So that is my literary review.
Oh, that's really nice. And I like that title. I know what you're saying, that you want something exactly like that, but not necessarily that is what you mean, but not a radical departure from that title.
Exactly. It's
right?
the same thing. It's just like, what has the right ambiguity level.
And I love that you can turn something into an extended metaphor just with the title. So we both win extended metaphor. I'm a sucker for extended metaphor, so we'll see if others have more for us.
Yeah, that is a garden. It's a garden in Wrightwood.
Right.
There we have that little community garden, and it was someone's great idea. But then, like all great ideas, eventually they go away. But that doesn't mean they weren't great.
Or they grow.
They grow. Well, I don't know. Everything ends at some point.
Yeah, but does it really? I mean, the impact of the garden continues on.
Well, there you go. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right. So let's go first to Dick Westheimer, who hasn't been first in a bit. Hey, Dick.
Hey, all.
Hi.
Yeah, great to see you.
It is good to see you on an afternoon when I would often be in the garden. So
yeah, that's perfect timing for this prompt.
it is perfect timing. Actually, we are having unusually cold weather here in
really?
Southwest Ohio. So I'm bundled up at the end of May when I'm normally in shorts and short sleeve. So Katie, a garden that I've only been to once.
I know. I thought this might be challenging for some gardeners out there.
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, but if you pay close attention, every garden that you go into, you've only been in once.
Okay, we are stretching the prompt here, Mr. Westheimer.
Well, I don't know. I really feel like, that's part of the beauty of being a gardener is like just, it's similar to poetry. Is you notice that it's not the same garden you were in yesterday.
Yeah.
So sorry, I stretched the prompt.
Well, that is a beautiful metaphor. I hope that's the one you wrote about, because that is a great one. I like
it is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you'll know by the title, which is Heraclitus in the Garden. Heraclitus in the Garden. The dead ripe strawberry I plucked today was green-tipped yesterday. The stout pigweed I just pulled was a tender shoot last week. The beet I picked at noon was so recently a seed, and the garlic bulbs have yet to learn to speak in garlic tongues. But even now, as they toddle underground, they will soon be grown and prone to rot if I don't pull them by the end of June. Last night, my wife harvested the early spinach clean, and under the full moon, a rabbit nibbled the pea flowers from the vine. 2 generations of soil protozoa have lived and bred and died in the last week, and since Tuesday, a mile of earthworm burrows have churned the soil beneath my feet. Tomorrow will be much the same, as will next week. True and false. The garden is constant. Change.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, and great point.
I think you need a garden chapbook, if not a garden full book.
Oh, and finding publishers is just like so easy.
You can, you know what? You just look in the mirror, find yourself, and then publish it.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Well,
right. We should just start putting poems out. I mean, Dick, you need a gardening book from Dick Westheimer. We all need that. We definitely
Maybe you
do.
could also have gardening tips for those of us that are gardening challenged but love the idea of gardening.
Yeah.
Well,
Think outside the small press.
It's the same as poetry. The outcome is the process, not the actual product.
Yeah, like we were telling Lizzie on the hike yesterday when she asked where we were going to.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the journey.
Yeah,
I'm sure that is
exactly.
fully understandable by
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks as always,
Thank
Dick.
you.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. It was Dick Westheimer with Heraclitus in the Garden. Let's go to Amanda Harris next.
All right. I was not expecting to be picked next, so okay. So I did a poem called Necropolis. 1. First there was the act of creation, then there was the act of contrition. 2. God is the master of sin, just as he is the master of goodness. Praise God for all of our sins. 3. Adam, touching Eve with his bristle, alerts her that the snake testing the ground with its tail was actually his leg.
That's great. Love the ending. Thanks.
Yeah, very creative way to go on that too. I like that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amanda. Yes, Amanda Harris with Necropolis. Let's go to a first-time caller. I think Zachary May.
Hello.
Hey,
I was on
Zachary.
like a month ago. Or
Okay,
a month
well, welcome
and a half
back.
ago,
Yeah,
but
I guess
that's-
the lighting during the day a little different.
Yes,
No, it's
a
great to
little
see you. Thanks
different.
for being here. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. This one's called Soundgarden. Soundgarden, the sign beckons. I'm a music teacher, after all. I reckon I'd like a Soundgarden. Around the park, metals and wood cut to different lengths, each intended for a pitch, melded into one pentatonic scale, a whale song sung through oceans of air overlooking Lake Cadillac. Grand opening, the park declares, with a date posted 2 weeks past, 2 weeks too late. I found wooden bars and pieces on the ground, metal tubes bent, pockmarks of cigarette butts dotting the surface. Brilliant rings forced to lifeless dings, with bodies that couldn't vibrate. Sound waves lost in utero. Imagine the moment before a pianist touches the keys, only to find someone cut all the strings. Thunking, clicking, felt hammers would beat themselves to death on the edge of a spruce wood soundboard. Dad played piano damn near every day, until the Parkinson's clipped him too. The only vibrations in his hands and brain. How proud this city must have been to build a sound garden, only for some faceless vagrant to vandalize, to insert a surprise finale. Instead of a flourish, a dull thud. I, too, wished more for my dad.
Oh, yeah, beautiful poem. I love the rhythm and the energy in that poem. Thanks so
Yeah,
much
and
for sharing
such a
that,
creative
Zachary.
take too to go to a sound garden. And I love it when poems are sonically driven. You get to hear all those intense sounds and really focus in on them in a way you can't in any other form of writing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
very cool. Thanks so much. And what was that poem called again, Zach? I couldn't find it pulling it up.
Oh, Soundgarden.
Soundgarden. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing
Thanks.
that. Yeah, that was Zachary May with Soundgarden. All right. Let's see. I wonder if, just out of curiosity. Oh, yeah, that was my problem. I put in I spelled Zachary with an A.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
searching and didn't see it. Okay.
We've solved it.
We've
at
solved
least.
it. There it is on screen. You get
Yeah.
Soundgarden. Yeah, thanks so much
Okay.
for sharing that, Zachary.
Thank you, Zachary, with an E.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Zachary with an A next. Why not? Zachary Honeycutt. Hey, Zach, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you guys doing this
Good,
lovely
thanks.
We're great. Yeah, great to see
Yeah.
you. Thanks for being here.
I got a little soap in my eye this morning when I was taking
Aw.
it almost killed the whole mood of my day, but I recovered.
Oh, well, great job. That's some
Glad
real
you're back.
perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It does sting. The soap gets
I
in
know.
your eyes.
I have very sensitive eyes. I'm like always like, oh, in the pool. I'm like, ah.
As my eye stung, this poem might sting a little bit too, but I think it's a good poem. Maybe you poets can make some sense of it. From the perspective of a guarded gnome, look past my red cap and brightly crafted eyes, and everything this neighborhood hides. Within this garden grew 2 lives, not unlike that first garden, where the first man and woman hid from the presence of God when they had first sinned. Don't you wonder why I wear that little grin as I listen in on the neighborhood din, as if I too bit into the fruit and became aware of some furtive sin? Maybe I was there once in that first garden. Would it be so hard to imagine, to overlook? The neighbor bought me for the wife, but the husband was unaware, was ignorant of the whole affair, assumed he must have brought me long ago from the garden department of a Home Depot or Lowe's and stuck me there. But I don't have the heart because I'm just made from terracotta clay poured into a mold. To tell this creature made in the image of God and molded from the dust, I say I don't have the heart to make him look past his side, wrap his fingers over the edge of a wall after he climbs and look down over, read in between the lines of paradise. I should let him believe what he wants to believe. Let him see like Adam and Eve before they even knew of the knowledge of good and evil. Still, I smile cheerily in spite of spring. Unlike the voiceful snake, I say nothing, but I could be the devil.
Well, a creepy turn at
Look
the end
differently at garden gnomes now.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that as always, Zach.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Fun poem again. That was Zachary Honeycutt with From the Perspective of a Garden Gnome. Let's go to Kimberly Gibson Tran next.
Hello there.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Okay, so this one's a little rambly, but it's kind of how memories are. This was just the memory that came to me of a weird garden. So this one is called Beer Garden, but not in the way you think it is.
Interesting.
Beer Garden. The bush is a lion. I see what they've done here. A green hedge clipped into the mascot for Sing Beer. My parents have rented scooters so we can putter around. I'm visiting their small town in Thailand, and there are a lack of tourist options. This park is random and large. Rambling, we get lost, have to unfold a map and backtrack. Happen across a petting zoo. Hot, I stare at the captive capybara. No pond for it to dip into. Dad looks sweaty, a bit beastly. He's the lion of our family, and I can tell he's nearing the end of his battery. We catch bearings in a grove of rubber trees. White liquid trickling from nicks in the bark dribbles into pails. I go with the flow. Dad bemoans the fact that there is no beer when we get to the gift shop. Only tchotchke feline souvenirs, Japanese juice, and canned coffee. The first time I tasted the gold of Sing was in America, actually. I was so excited to recognize the curly lion that I bought a whole 6-pack at World Market, even though there were weird floaty bits in the bottles. Somewhere the throttle of a scooter, a slow drip, the feeling of being lost, the taste of a garden you go to once and can't remember leaving.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I love the shape nature of that poem, and then also the way it ends.
Yeah, I really like
the
the
break
ending.
at the end
Yeah.
that shape creates is really
Yeah.
worthwhile and fun. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
Really
Thank you.
interesting garden to explore too. Yeah, thanks so much. That was Kimberly Gibson Tran with Beer Garden. Next up, let's go to Nivi next, and it's not early in the morning, but it's late at night where Nivi is. She's got to go to work in the morning, we know. So, hey, Nivi, how you doing?
Hi, Tim. Hi, Kitty. I'm doing good, thank you. How about you guys?
I'm doing great. So it's like 1 a.m. there or so?
No, it's just past 11, actually. It's
Oh, okay.
a quarter past 11.
Oh, I did the time zone shift wrong, because we do that 1 hour, but I moved it the wrong way.
Yeah,
I guess,
you
in my
guys
head.
have the daylight savings kind of messes everything up.
Yeah, it sure does.
All right. Well, I guess it's not so late then, but you do get up early, we know. So glad to have you on
Yeah.
and good to see you at a different time. Thanks for being here.
And I finally managed to catch the entire live show actually live rather than having to listen to it after work in the evening. So, and what a great show it was too.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, so glad you're here. So what do you have? What was your garden?
The garden was sort of myself.
Oh, great.
I think I also tend to take metaphors, the extended metaphors, way too long and weave them anywhere that I can. So this is what came out of it. And this was actually published, I think maybe in 2019 or early 2020 in a magazine called Visual Verse. And I was like, well, this fits the prompt, so let's just go with it. So Visual Verse was kind of an ekphrastic magazine. So at the end of the document, I also have the image that this poem was originally based on.
Okay.
So should I read it first?
Yeah,
Or-
go ahead. Or well,
Okay.
you could show the picture first, too, if you'd like. Which way?
It's on the second page of the Word document that I have attached.
Well, I'll show it then. Here it is.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a really cool piece. Yeah, it's for those just watching, it's a, how do you describe it? Someone cutting, they have a scissors, there's a...
It's a drawn figure that has very large blue arms and long blue legs in like a yellow cool dress in bright colors.
Yeah, I should always enlist, you like the... the good art gallery description. So
I
you
like
should always
doing
be your
that.
job.
I
to
know, but I
describe
was
the
very
art.
amused to see what you were going to say for this one. So that's why I stayed silent. It's cool though. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's hear the poem, Nivi.
In the garden of the self. It is now the season of harvest, and the sun shines bright, blinding me with its golden brilliance. Shining as bright as the golden strands of corn and maize bursting forth from my scalp. The rakes that are my fingers comb through the lustrous golden stalks as I sit cross-legged and meditate. Inner peace eludes me, so I reach for the garden shears and trim away the unwanted excesses. The watering can too plays its role, nurturing me and sustaining me, just like the mossy peat beneath my feet. The peat that was formed from all the forefathers before me has molded me well and shaped me into what I am, what I wish to be. Yet you could not stand to see that, could not let me be me. So what did you do? You planted a bed of roses on my heart. Untended, the thorns pricked through my skin. Blood seeped through, coating the already crimson petals.
And here's another look at the image again too for that. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Nivi. That was Nivi Karthik with In the Garden of the Self. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Hope you sleep well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good day, you guys. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Yep, that was Nivi Karthik with In the Garden of the Self. Next, let's go to Brian O'Sullivan.
Hey.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, great to see you. We missed you last week.
Yeah, we
Good
did.
to see you back.
Yeah. Sorry I couldn't make it last week, but I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm jealous of everybody's garden memories because I was having a really hard time coming up with one. But then I was talking to Jen actually about the topic, and she brought up a poem that became kind of my prompt within a prompt. And that's how I got where I was supposed to be, I think.
Interesting, yeah.
Jen is
Well,
always
reflection-
helpful.
Yeah. I had to give her credit.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Reflections of a Real Toad. What am I doing here, Miss Marion Moore, warden of this garden? And how did you lure me out from textures, harshness of mud, silkiness of toadstools, into unreal texts or dreams or gossamer strands? Maybe I'm remembering I was running from some wild-eyed kid with a jar, and maybe I stumbled or ran too far, and the world got glistening, and the snake hissed at me, and Eve blew a kiss at me. So I hope you and your readers have a ball, and I hope it was a fortunate fall, because I guess I'll just live in metaphor now.
That's great. I always love when you bring in the humor, Brian. That's
Yeah.
another fun poem. Yeah.
Reflections of a Real Toad is very nice in and of itself, too.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of imaginary gardens with real toads in them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that wonderful Marianne Moore quote, which was almost a tiny poem, remember?
Yeah, I love that poem.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Brian. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, always a pleasure. It was Brian O'Sullivan with Reflections of a Real Toad. Let's go next to Mike Bales.
Well,
hey, Mike.
good
Hi.
poems. I'm a little sick by the laptop now, so well.
No, I'm
well, I'm
sorry.
sorry to hear that.
Hope
I
you
hope
feel
you feel-
better
yeah.
soon.
I've got ups and downs, but anyway, I sent you the poem Aunt Janet's Garden.
Okay.
Aunt Janet's Garden. It flourished at the edge of Fort Dodge, fields to the west, the sound of nothingness in the air, but beyond the wonders of a land I've never seen. Wearing floral gloves, she tended each plant. Aunt Janet pointed out each as it reached for the sun. She called out to each by name. I knew that it was love, and it could take me anywhere. I was young, standing with my mom, and we were there for just a day, but how I loved the place. Just my mom and me with my aunt, a moment's perfection in stillness of a soft breeze and quiet conversation. My aunt and mom had come from a farm in Minnesota, a land of Minnesota of meadows and lakes. A picture of Eden played in my mind. My uncle and aunt moved there from St. Cloud to manage a bread bakery in town. My aunt was so proud. Yet she turned to me and I realized we'd always remember the place from which we came. To this day I remember, she smiled.
Very sweet memory to share. Thanks so much for sharing that, Mike.
Yeah.
And yeah, great
Okay,
job.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks for showing up and trooping through, and hope you
Yeah.
feel better soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got my ups and downs, but thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. There's Mike Bales with Aunt Janet's Garden. Let's go to Hemet Malik next.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Hemet, great to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Oh, wait,
I'm
it's really
glad
late
Dick had
there,
that
isn't
straight.
it?
Oh, it's early now. It's 3:50.
Oh, no.
Hemet,
I'm sorry. I should have gone to you
alright.
first, too.
Thanks for being
Oh no, I'd be watching anyway. No, I'd be watching anyway. No problem. I'm awake now. I'm just saying that Dick used the same stretch with the prompt as I did, so I'm sorry. In the courtyard. I need to bow my head to the salvia under the salvia today. Its purple fingers pointing at my apathy to prune. My hair catches on the plumbago, dragging its long arms under the weight of hedge, a label I make it carry to screen me from the empty street. It lays a stone blue flower on my crown. Between those groggy blue arms, the slim ornamental plum trees stand in starched indigo, each a lady on a train with sleepy drunks on either side, groping at her legs. The lawn is a carved rug, flat-leafed weeds etching their design as they slide over the indignant grass. I haven't been here before, in this court with bench seats too close. A masked lapwing tells me to stand, hear the charges, not respond. The light is harsh here. I wish someone would open a window.
I love that ending. Yeah, wonderful turn there in the courtyard.
Oh, and I also wanted to bring up Hemet. You're doing a reading this week, right?
Oh, no, it's in June.
Oh, I was thinking it was June already. I'm sorry. I'm so confused. All right. Well, make sure to bring it up on the show that's the closest to that, because I know everybody wants to hear the reading. I apparently want to hear so much that I'm imagining it's a month earlier than it actually is. So
yeah, and that's the Poetry Superhighway you're going to be on with Rick Lupert, who was a guest back. He's the best host, I think, of any podcast. He has such a great sense of humor and really.
Also, very happy it's June because my odds of being able to watch just skyrocketed. So that's good for me selfishly also. So
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hope you
Hemet.
get some sleep. Oh my gosh.
Definitely. It is so late. Go to bed.
Thanks.
I love you. Take care. That was Hemet Malik with In the Courtyard. And let's go next to Stephen Croft.
Hey, Tim and Katie.
Hi.
Hey, Stephen, how you doing?
Doing good. I enjoyed hearing from the Iraqi poet. One when I was in Iraq, the culture really was non-existent. I'm glad that it's flourishing now. I really am. Um, and because of the war, obviously. Um, so I was not a Boy Scout, and I was not a sailor, so I can't really tie knots, but maybe I can write a knot into a metaphor. So we'll find out. This is on a hill in a garden, Pogman, Afghanistan. In this ancient country floating high on the world, Humvees circle a hill, and there is nothing to do in a gun turret but watch the quiet land and think, why are we here where the war has made us fewer by 6 so far? We've run a goat farmer off his hilltop, us laughing, trying to count the number of goats that come out of his stone house's front door before he herds them down the hill under Cobble Valley's high bowl of mountains. He will return tomorrow when, if the night brings no fighting, we leave to patrol back through Pogman, return to camp. There will be no answer by then, but we'll stop in the town's central garden, fed by a stream that runs into the valley, and beauty will make me glad for a moment to be in this country of pack animals and no railroads, serene now, like the tribes have finally worked a knot that holds them together, where green trees and bright flowers, trills of sparrows under jagged, snow-capped mountains make the wildest beauty I've ever seen.
Beautiful poem. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Stephen Croft with On a Hill and in the Garden, Pagman, Afghanistan. And last but not least on the Zoom is Christiana Doucette. Hey, Christiana.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got this to work. My laptop is out getting repaired, and so this is not my computer, and it took me forever to figure out how to turn it on. But I'm
Good
here.
job.
Yeah,
I
great
figured it
job.
out.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought about doing what Dick Westheimer did, and also thinking that every garden is not the same every time you walk into it. Like the bachelor's buttons are just starting to bloom in my own garden, and they weren't there last week. They weren't even there 2 days ago. So, but I decided not to do that, and instead I went with the cypress gardens that are down near Goose Creek, close to Charleston. It's where the Notebook and the Patriot had some scenes filmed, but before that, it was a plantation where they flooded the land, like 80 acres of the land, to grow Carolina gold, which is a type of rice. So this is set there. And the title is Before the Notebook at the Cypress Gardens. And let me try to pronounce this. I think it's Kahudith Naban is the form that I tried to use. It's 9 syllables on each line. And each line that is in there has to have a rhyming line to it, but they can kind of be, this one I arranged to be 8 lines long, and so it's AA, B, 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 C, C.
That's really, I've never heard of that form before. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Welsh form, and I always like exploring new ones. I really liked that the 9 syllables kind of break up the iambic rhythm that I often fall into. So here we go. Black water mirrors the cloudless skies. Between lily buds and yellow eyes, we glide a flat-floored boat. Muffled oars dip below the surface, and we soar toward the picture-perfect bridge. Scores of turtles warm their shells as light pours sun through cypress shadows. The heat hovers horsefly bites above our seats. Tall trees draw towers from the black silt, and I think about the way they built the world on unpaid knees. How they stripped the land for Carolina gold, whipped the red earth to rich black dirt, then shipped the profits far and wide, the wealth gripped in teeth that bit orders into backs, then lay like well-fed gators, relaxed. A whir of cool wings, a sudden snap of jaws, Moss log locks a tooth-filled trap. The turtles hide their faces, their shells shine hand-carved bowls set on rough-hewn shelves. We row below the white bridge, propel the green boat through, flicking salt to swells the paddles drew. The bridge beyond, flight from death, depths below are full of bite.
Oh, really? Yeah, really interesting use of that form. And you know, it is what you mentioned, honing in, you know, away from that iambic.
Yeah,
you know,
with the
and,
9 syllables.
Yeah, and having some constraint to guide you by it. It works really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I included a couple pictures of when we visited down below.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you want to peek at them. It's a blackwater swamp. And so it's the cypresses.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
actually, it is full of alligators.
Oh,
We
yeah.
saw quite a few of them.
Yikes. Yeah, but very beautiful. Yeah, thanks so much for
thank
sharing
you.
both the poem and the pictures. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was Christiana Doucette, once again, with Before the Notebook at the Cypress Garden.
Have you seen The Notebook?
Of course I've seen The
Okay.
Notebook. Gosh. Who hasn't seen The Notebook? I've seen it many times.
I've seen it many times.
All right. I do think it's completely unfair. You got to build a whole house just to impress the women. If you don't, it's hard to live up to those.
If you don't build a metaphor, will they come?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay. But yeah, that is a great movie.
I know.
It is.
Thank you.
And I do cry at the end every time.
Well, we're going to watch it.
Uh-oh.
So get ready.
Okay, well, all right. Well, let's see. We had some folks who weren't here, but let's see. I saw Nate Jacob. Maybe we should read Nate Jacob's poem. He was here, had to cut out before he could get to this, but let's. And I'll try to put on my fun personality because
Your fun personality is always there.
Well, thanks. Okay, so this is Nate Jacob's poem, and this is. Katie's already laughing at the title. I don't know what I did with this. Why? Okay, that's weird. The Olive Garden. It's all you can eat breadsticks and bottomless salad
That
bowl.
is such a hilarious take on the prompt to go to the Olive Garden.
That really is.
Oh, Nate. It kills me.
All right.
I've been saying, like, I haven't been to that. The Olive Garden was like my the fancy restaurant growing up. Like, maybe I'd eat there once. And then I've been saying, like, hey, I think that the kids should experience the magic of the Olive Garden. I haven't been in like 20 years.
One time, perfect for this prompt.
I know. It's so funny. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, here's Nate Jacob. The Olive Garden's all you can eat breadsticks and bottomless salad bowl. If from the beginning it is said, this is perfect, this is paradise, what more will you ever want? If every last thing is all joy, save for that one fruiting tree, and for a timeless eternity, you and yours eat and name, then re-eat and rename every God-planted food, all the divine meals made, save that one perfect poem, and you die to eat it, would die for having done so, having grown sick with want for something new to taste. Then the snake in that tree with a sweet, slippery tongue, who knows that your tongue is the way to your heart, will whisper of endless knowing, and you will eat what is forbidden, will be ecstatic in the bitter rind and the newness of choice, and suddenly you are proud and naked and wanting what has never yet been named. And for that, you would leave paradise behind, preferring potential to permanence. I think that is one of the most creative, the Garden of Eden to
the Olive Garden. This is really hilarious.
That is a really interesting. But actually, like, it works on a theological
I know,
level,
because
though.
then
It's
too, and
fascinating.
you're picturing this happening in the Olive Garden. It's very, very clever, Nate.
It definitely is. Yeah, there's Nate Jacob.
I
with,
hope you're not here because you're at the Olive Garden. That would be really taking your poem
he's
to heart.
listening now,
He's
in
literally
1 ear.
at the Olive Garden broadcasting on a giant TV.
The Olive Garden's all you can eat breadsticks and bottomless salad bowl by Nate Jacob. Thanks, Nate. And now let's take a look at. Is there anybody else who is here? Did you see Nancy?
I don't know.
She won't be able to make it, says Nancy, and didn't include the poem. Oh, wait. But Nancy was here. I saw her earlier. I'll read Nancy's poem, too, and then we'll read... Oh, wait, no, this is last week. Never mind. Okay, maybe Nancy didn't write one this week. Let's do Ted Bernal Guevara's garden poem. Here's Ted. Oh, he's got another interesting photograph. This is a ballerina.
I thought that was me.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. You describe it, yeah.
Well, we have a ballerina dancing and her skirt is fabulous and made of pages of books.
Literally at the Olive Garden broadcasting.
And it is on top of a book with a big quill pen there too.
Yeah. Okay, so here's Ted's poem, Eloquent. Let your skirt shawl pleats of cure let your skirt shawl pleats of cure. You have perception on this. You'll research it through. Maybe while in the garden listening to the chirps of eggs yet unhatched. Incubator of hope, don't be unplugged, not yet. Keep locked the ply of warmth. It's what you hold dear in good sons. Outlive me, little sister, reader of my poems. Silence bears a song, life dances to it still. So it's eloquent, and there's the photo again. A really beautiful poem. Thanks for sharing that, Ted Bernal Guevara. Let's see. Oops. Let's see. And so someone just popped in line. Don Kasky is here. Hey, Don, do you got a poem for us?
Okay.
It's just 4 short stanzas.
Okay.
What I remember about the Cape is the frail elderly lady who greeted us on the lawn between our rented cottage and her home. Her ropey hands clenched the leash of a muscled black basset that probably outweighed her. She bubbled about the weather and her roses, while the dog, nose aground, straining, ignored everything but the scent of some creature that had passed in the night. Pulling with all her might, she refused to acknowledge the tug of the hound.
Yeah, I really love that story. Like looking back, great, well told, Don. Thanks for sharing that.
Glad you jumped on here.
Yeah, me too. And I didn't get to see it. So what was the title again?
It was it's tentatively titled Cape Cod. It's in a forthcoming book. It was originally called The Tug of the Hound, but that's the title of the book.
Gotcha.
Ah,
well, very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
Really enjoyed that
Hey.
poem. Yeah, glad you could jump on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was Don Kasky. Yeah, at the last minute. All right, now let's go to the closing haiku. And so there were a lot. It's really fun, actually. I'm enjoying like Sundays, like looking back at some things during the week and writing a few haiku about it. It is kind of fun.
Some coup.
One of the highlights for this week, we went to the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, and we saw the exhibit A.A. Murakami's The Floating World, which we really enjoyed. Do you want to describe a little bit, since that's your job?
I feel, okay, so it was a very immersive experience. Like we went into this huge room, like, you know, with like more than cathedral ceilings, like 20-foot high ceilings or something. And it's all painted black. And then what's happening is there is a device that's creating enormous bubbles and fog intermittently. And then they're spotlit. And so it's completely black. It was like probably the coolest room I've ever just walked into, because I strategically, when I know it's an immersive exhibit, I try not to look at it because I want to be surprised. And I was surprised.
Yeah, it is just really cool. The way, I mean, it just makes you think so much about, I don't know, I guess how our lives are like these little bubbles.
Well, what I said after was that it's like, it felt like it was like a person being born is the bubble, and then the fog was like the spirit inside of them, and then the bubble pops eventually, but the spirit like takes longer to dissipate.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's just fascinating to watch them, though, as the light plays on the surface of it, the little holographic nature of the bubbles and the shifting and changing.
Yeah,
and
it was fascinating to Charlotte at 5 and us at slightly older than 5.
Yeah. Well, so here is the haiku based on that. Lost in the floating world, her pink butterfly clip.
Aww.
Which, so as we were going through the black curtains to get into the room, the curtain brushed off one of Charlotte's 2 hair clips, and she said, "Butterfly clip!"
Like screamed it into this room of people trying to focus on the art. Yeah.
But we couldn't find, I mean, it was too dark. And
then we found it because you stepped on it at home a couple days ago.
No, we found, because there were 2. So we found the one. I didn't realize there were 2 at the time, so she lost her second one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is the haiku of the week, Lost in the Floating World, her pink butterfly clip.
Aww.
All right, so that is going to wrap up the show for today. Thanks, everybody, for joining this early time. I know it's unusual, and a lot of people are going to pop on at 8 p.m. Eastern time and be like, hey, what's going on? And they can watch the whole show then.
Yeah.
Just don't get to have the fun of doing it live. But thanks for being here. It's been such a pleasure. as it always is. Now next week's... Oh, wait. The order is wrong. We got to do the prompt for next week.
Okay.
And the prompt for next week is...
We are going to write an epistolary postcard poem. I actually took out the word epistolary as I edited it because I just thought it was unnecessary and looked fancy.
Okay.
So anyway, okay.
There you go.
And because it's a... Sorry. Oh. It's okay. Write a postcard poem to someone that would be very surprised to hear from you. So it is epistolary, but we don't need that fancy word.
No, we don't.
Just write a postcard poem.
Yeah. And a reminder, too, that the postcard poems, that fun issue of Rattle that we did, Pauline Nelson's, that's coming up not too far away. You can probably register right now. It starts in August. But yeah, it's a good reminder for that. A postcard poem to someone that would be very surprised to hear from you.
Yeah.
Also, we were just talking about Wynn Cooper on the yet-to-be-released Rattlecast about copyright and things like that.
Yeah.
He's got a fun book. I really like his book, Postcards from the Interior, which are all postcard poems, too. So that'll be some
And then the current
inspiration.
episode of the Poetry Space is part 2 of our exploration of spirituality. And what I really loved about that, and I have been continually thinking about it, is so we had, Chris Anderson, who's a Catholic deacon, and then we had, among the squads, atheism was represented and everything. And so we had like this, I think, really productive, great conversation about things. I just wish everybody could talk like that all the time, like it's fine we disagree about things, but like looking for what we actually agree about, because I think it's the low-hanging fruit to talk about the garden that was mentioned so much today is, hey, we disagree about this, and disagreements are easy to find. So
yeah, really well said. So check that out. That's the Poetry Space, Katie's podcast that we participate in. You can find that.
Participate in that.
I do. I'm the co-host of.
Yes, and you do the audio editing. He's really understating.
But you can find that anywhere you find your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, whatnot. Just type the Poetry Space in and then listen to that. But anyway, so that is that. So that's the haiku. And next week's guest in the Rattlecast is going to be Kat Lehman. So, Kat, of course, you have her book probably, No Matter How It Ends, A Bluebird Song, that wonderful book where the title is a haiku itself. It's a really moving journey through her illness that she suffered and came through the other side of. That is a wonderful haiku memoir by Kat Lehman. She was the guest on, I think, the episode number 4 or something, way back in the early days of the Rattlecast. So she'll be here with the benefits of Zoom and multiple cameras and things like that for the first time. And a really wonderful poet, great fixture in the haiku world, wonderful Hyven writer. So we'll share a whole lot of stuff. That's Kat Lehman, episode number 295, plus your postcard poems to someone who would be very surprised to hear from you. That's next week, back at the regular time, Sunday, June 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week in the meantime, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.